are from Oakley. They will be celebrating their 45th wedding anniversary. Fantastic. This October. They've been blessed with 3 children, 2 of which are in Oakley and 1 in Texas. Rusty's life has been one of service to others. He's served for 44 years as a volunteer firefighter and EMT, all while working for school districts for 41 years. First off, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
That's absolutely awesome. I really appreciate it. The last 10 of these years have been spent at USD 489. His 2 sons also serve in the military. So please thank them also.
We'll do that.
Rusty's dedication to serve others goes all the way back to his childhood in the Boy Scouts when he cited an oath to do his best to his duty to God and country and to help others at all times. Rusty came into full communion with the Catholic Church this past Easter Vigil at St. Joseph Church in Hayes. Wow. Welcome home, Rusty.
Well, thank you.
That is fantastic. My boys also are all in Scouts, and so I recognize the Scout oath quite well there.
Yeah, it's amazing how once you learn it, it stays with you.
Absolutely. I'm going to scoot this mic a little bit closer there.
Okay.
All right. Fantastic. Okay. Rusty, that's pretty awesome. I think we're here to talk a little bit about your faith walk within your life. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. I myself am a convert to the Catholic faith. I know what brought me to it, but I love stories of how people fell more in love with Christ, how they came to the understanding of truth more fully in their lives. And so I'm excited to hear your story here. I mean, maybe we can start with that is what was your faith background growing up?
So my faith background is similar to my wife's, other than I was Protestant, she was Catholic. She grew up the same way I did. Our mothers were both very strong in the church. Our fathers were not.
Okay.
So there was a little bit of a divide there from the start. For me, I went to church because my mom wanted me to go to church, and I was torn because my dad would, go work, and he was sort of a workaholic. He would go do that kind of stuff. And I wasn't really wanting to be there. As I went through my growth, it started out following my dad. I mean, he would work on projects and I would follow him and work on projects. And when I got old enough to basically pull away from my mom in the church, I did. Uh-huh. Then I got involved in the fire and EMS. And when you start seeing some of the stuff that you see in that, it changes your perspective of your faith and calls some things into question. I had some really severe accidents, and one of them actually involved one of my best friend from school, and he survived, and another friend from mine from school, but the girl that was with him was a fatality, and it gave me a little bit of post-traumatic stress after that, just dealing with it, and it really started me questioning, So I went back to what I knew. I went back to the Protestant church. I was in the Christian church at Oakley. I went back to it. I had not been baptized to that point. I didn't get baptized till I was in my mid-20s. I was baptized and got really involved in the church and stuff. My wife, being from the same background where one parent was going to church and the other not, it was easy for her to basically fall away from the Catholic Church into the Protestant church and follow me there. As we said, we have 3 kids at the time. They were baptized Catholic and were baptized into the church. She followed the church up until probably 86 is when she followed me over into the Protestant church, and that's when I started going back into the Christian church. We followed that up until about 2000, and in 2000 we made a life change and moved from Oakley to Scott City. I'd become a little bit disillusioned with the Christian church, just in various things. It was easy to not pick back up the church when we got to Scott. We got back into the habit of working and doing other things, and had pulled away from it. Came to Hayes in 2014. And 2014 is when I started really reconsidering the direction I wanted to go. And I'd looked at a lot of different faiths. And every time that I would end up, for whatever reason, back in a Catholic church, it seemed like the direction that I was being called. And so this last year, I was talking to one of the guys that I know here that was part of St. Joe's Church, and I basically just asked him to sponsor me, that I was really interested in going through OCIA and find out more about the church, and if that's truly the direction I wanted to go. Went home and told my wife, which I hadn't really talked to her about it. I just basically had made up my mind that was where I was going, told her what I was doing, and she basically looked at me and said that's really the direction she was wanting to go to. She'd been thinking about her faith and
Wow.
the way she was wanting to go. So we started into OCIA, and in that journey of that, I have a grandson that lives here in Hayes. He actually is on the Hayes Fire Department. And he had been coming over and started visiting with me about the church, and started attending and decided that he wanted to join OCIA. So we both were actually confirmed at the Easter vigil. So
Wow. So much to unpack there. Let me break for just a second because I really want to get back to that. I don't see that we had a trivia winner yet. I want to read that question one more time. If you're 16 years of age or under, I know there's somebody out there listening that can get this. Give me a call, 785-621-4110. What is the last book of the Bible? Is it Matthew, Exodus, Revelation, or Genesis? What is the last book of the Bible? A, Matthew, B, Exodus, C, Revelation, D, Genesis. If you are 16 or under, 785-621-4110. If you're out there listening and you would like to give us a pledge, call that same number, or you can also donate at dvmercy.com. You can also go there and watch as the thermometer goes up to see how we're doing on the Care-a-thon, and to see what we're doing to get toward our goal. That final goal is $125,000 by the end of the week. And we really want to get there so that we can keep these radio waves going out to everybody that's listening to them. We have those 5 stations. Let's keep them going. 785-621-4110. All right. We are in here with Rusty Lindsay talking about his faith journey. And just really quickly, maybe back up a little bit. So I also, I use the term Protestant basically to mean anything non-Catholic, because it's easy to just kind of say it that way.
yes,
I would consider the church I grew up in maybe like evangelical or something like that, but we weren't in like Baptist, Lutheran, or anything like that. Is that kind of you also, or were you under one of the more overarching?
no, it was Oakley Christian Church.
Okay.
There was no parent church to it.
Okay.
This is the way I would say it.
Okay. And so then, is there anything you can point to specifically? I know for me, it was a question from my soon-to-be wife, which is now my wife. She asked me, if you were to go to a church, where would you go? And I heard you say that, you had looked at a lot of different faith backgrounds.
Yep.
And that's something that I had to actually do too, is to kind of look into faiths and say, well, where do I think the truth is? Was there anything specific like that for you, or was it just kind of this gradual process?
I think probably the thing that kept pulling me back, and it's probably due to my service base that I'd done through the fire service and just everything, was the tradition and the fact that it seemed like it was more firmly bound in something other than just people's opinion that were leading the church at the time.
Uh-huh.
It was, the church, I don't know how to say this. It's going to be probably something I'm going to mess up here, but
well, if it's heretical, I'll try to correct it.
the church, the Catholic Church to me is steeped in its history, and it can take its, the church clear back to the beginning.
Yeah.
With the starting of the church. You look at the other churches and they're basically offshoots from the Catholic Church. At some point they broke off, and they broke because of someone didn't like something.
Yeah.
And the church that I grew up in, that actually happened to that church. And I think that was one of the deciding factors for me was the minister at that church was basically voted on and brought in by the congregation.
Mm-hmm.
So at one point, half the congregation wanted him and half of the congregation wanted to get a new minister. And it became such an upheaval that they eventually split into two different churches.
Yeah.
And one followed the minister that was there and the others followed a different minister when they brought him in.
Yeah.
So that, I guess I don't see that with the Catholic faith.
Yeah.
I mean, you might choose to leave the church, but the church doesn't split.
Yep.
And that was one of the big things that I'd seen with a lot of the faiths that I was looking at. It seemed like it was more someone's opinion. And the more, you got to remember, I've only been doing this for a few months. So I'm really new to the church. And there's a lot of what I'm seeing that I didn't get out of my walk in the Christian church. And the reason is I don't think it was brought forward as much of those traditions and values, because I've learned more in the last few months about how close we were tied to Judaism. I mean, that's where the church basically came from. And a lot of the history and a lot of the traditions come from that. And I never got that. I mean, if you'd have asked me when I was younger and in the Christian church, I would have thought there was no actual tie back to Judaism. I mean, it was sort of like the church is, something that's in the United States and has no tie back to anywhere else. And I didn't put that together. And that's something that's been becoming more realistic to me as I learn more and more about the church and the history of the church.
Absolutely. The way that I would maybe put it is, Judaism and Christianity are not two different trees. Judaism is kind of like the sapling and Christianity is the full grown tree, because we have Christ, the God man,
Correct.
And so I would agree with you there completely that, we have to understand our Jewish roots and our Jewish brothers and sisters and where we came from. But then also, I think you're also right on it. I cannot blame, because I would say, I think I'm right in saying this, most Christians today aren't specifically protesting the Catholic Church because it's what they grew up in. Whatever church they grew up in, it's what you grew up in.
Correct.
So most of them aren't Protestants because they are specifically protesting the Catholic Church. But that is what every Protestant church is the difference they have with the church that Christ set up. And so whether it is, we don't believe in baptizing babies, whether they know it or not, it is because that's a protest against Christ's original church. So yeah, you're not wrong at all in saying that. And so that's why I kind of want to put it out there is that, it's not that all people are just saying, no, we break from the Catholic Church. But that's what all Protestant churches have done. And yes, we've even seen that within our Hayes community. There's been several of those splits within the churches within Hayes even.
Yes.
So you would be right there. So, okay. We are listening with, or actually we're not, we're talking with Rusty Lindsay here. And he is talking to us about his walk with Christ, where it has led him, where he's at today, and his coming into full communion with the church. I still don't see that we have that trivia winner. I know there's somebody out there that knows it. I know there's some kids out there that are 16 or under, and I hope that you're listening. I know it's dinner time for my family, so maybe they're not listening. However, someone out there knows this. Call 785-621-4110. What is the last book of the Bible? Is it A, Matthew, B, Exodus, C, Revelation, or D, Genesis? What's the last book of the Bible? Matthew, Exodus, Revelation, or Genesis? 785-621-4110. But without taking up any more time, I want to get back to talking with Rusty. And is there anything that we've missed? You already kind of gave us a glimpse into it about the differences between the Christian church that you grew up in and the Catholic faith that you are a part of now.
No, I don't know that I missed anything there.
Okay.
One thing that I would add, in the Christian church that I grew up in, we had Wednesday night service and you had Sunday services, and that's it. I think the other thing that brought me to the Catholic Church was the fact that there's daily service. I mean, when you're ready to go, there's a mass every day, and sometimes multiple times through the day that you can go to, and that I appreciate that. I really do.
I think another thing that maybe you kind of hit on, especially when you move, this is something that really kind of hit me too as I was in my journey. It's not that we were planning on moving or I was even thinking about it, but it did come across my mind that if we were to move, if you're in a Protestant church and you move, unless you're under one of those overarching like Baptist or Lutheran, or, you go somewhere else, you have to completely now research a new church. When you're in the Catholic Church, it doesn't matter where you go.
Yep.
You're going to a Catholic church. Now, obviously, you could say, well, maybe the priest is teaching something he shouldn't or something like that. But that doesn't mean it's not a Catholic church.
Right.
That means that we just simply have someone who's not following what is calling it. And so that was a big thing for me, too, is the understanding of, oh, wait a minute. Christ calls us to be one, and we have this church that is one across the world. So that just kind of made sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I want to, all right, here we go. We got it. Way to go, Gianna Ochoa. All right. I appreciate you listening, Gianna. Way to go. She won our trivia contest, and the correct answer to the last book of the Bible is Revelation. So that is the correct answer. We'll get you put in the drawing for that gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts. We'll have another question here in about 10 minutes or so. Keep listening. Okay. So as you get ready to enter OCIA, which is the Order of Christian Initiation for Adults, were there any challenges that you had to overcome? Anything that, as you're learning about the faith was really kind of difficult to really grasp?
I had some preconceived notions of what I thought was going to be difficult for me to overcome.
Me too.
The rosary was one of them. And actually I embraced the rosary. I really did. I didn't have any problems with that. Confession was another one that I'd never done, and I was apprehensive about, and that hasn't really been any kind of stepping or any kind of block for me. The one that in the faith that I was in is purgatory.
Okay.
In the faith that I had learned as a kid and through my early adulthood, purgatory didn't exist under the teaching of what I was purgatory. When Jesus died and went into purgatory, he basically pulled all the souls out of it and it ceased to exist. That was the understanding I had.
Okay.
So coming back from that, I've had a little bit of problem with it, which leads me to the saints, because there were no saints in the church. So the saint part of it's been a learning experience for me. It's not that I disbelieve what I'm being taught. It's just a different concept than what I've had most of my life. And I'm trying to wrap that around something. I was thinking the other day while I was doing a rosary that I always compare my church faith and stuff back to things that I know, like the fire service and stuff. And I was sitting there, actually just yesterday, comparing, how the fire service relates back to the church. And it finally dawned on me yesterday that no, really the fire service, it's not the church relating to the fire service. It's actually the fire service relating to the church, because the hierarchy, how it's designed, what calls us, the things that we do, all those things are basically following the exact model that the church has.
Oh, wow.
And so like in OCIA, when I would talk about different things, I would tie it back to the stuff that I knew from being either a firefighter or being an EMT. And it's been, that part of it's been enlightening for me, actually seeing the similarities and how that ties back together.
Wow.
So,
yeah, that is crazy. That's awesome.
So, going back to your original question, most everything that I learned in OCIA maybe differed a little bit from, the faith that I had in the Christian church. But the one thing that I would say is I think most people in whatever Protestant religion, that I've got some friends that are pretty staunch and probably will be very, I haven't talked to a couple of them, but I think they would be not really against me going into the church, but they would question me going into the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I find interesting about that is probably the preconceived notions that they have were some of the same ones that I have, that basically you really need to go there and see, because you're going to be surprised at, how opposite of what you're thinking it really is. I know there was a lot of things that, like I said, I came in thinking one way, and when I got there, it was like, oh no, that's not how it is at all.
Yeah, me too. A lot of the same things. I mean, even like, with purgatory, I think it was C.S. Lewis who was Anglican, if I remember right. So he wasn't Catholic, but even he, I think, said something like, don't our souls deserve purgatory? And, and I don't know if it was him or someone else kind of said, well, imagine this. Imagine if you show up to heaven and you're just in these dirty, filthy clothes. And Jesus is like, come on in. We'll accept you like that. Wouldn't you at that moment say, yes, but I'd rather be cleaned up first?
Correct.
And it made sense that even if Christ was, hey, come on in, our souls would say, but if I still have some things that I'm attached to in my old life, I need those cleaned up before I enter into the kingdom. And I was like, oh, well, that's a good way to understand it.
Yeah.
At least for me, it made sense. And so, yeah. Okay. I appreciate that, because, everybody has difficulties in some way, in some manner. I know a lot of mine too. And yeah, the rosary, especially when you look in the Gospel of Luke and you're like, oh, that comes straight out of the Bible. Like, well, then that one's not so bad, is it?
No, not at all.
So yes, I had a lot of the same misgivings. I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one. All right. I want to remind people that you're listening to Divine Mercy Radio, our spring Care-a-thon, Come Follow Me. Here in a few minutes, I'm going to do another trivia question for those 16 and under. Call 785-621-4110. If you would like to call and donate, we still have a lot of matching funds. We were given over $21,000 in matching funds this morning. We've used up over 5,000 to 6,000, somewhere in there. We want to continue using more, because what that means is as soon as you give, your dollars are automatically doubled. Okay. Call in 785-621-4110 and help us to continue this mission. We're going to get back to talking with Rusty Lindsay and his recent conversion to the fullness of the faith. And we've talked a lot about your background, about some difficulties and things like that. Have you already said a little bit about, there's a couple friends that may not rail on you for it, but may kind of be like, what are you doing, dude? Do you have any other family and friends that you're not sure how they're going to react to your joining the church?
My family, so interesting story. When I was in the Christian church, I was a deacon in the church. And at that time, my sister had not been baptized either. And she had came to the faith after I did. And with our church, they would allow you to baptize family members. So I actually baptized my sister into the Christian church. And she actually converted to Catholicism before I did.
Oh, really?
So she had already taken that step. When she got married, she decided to switch her faith, and she did. And actually, she's one of the ones that probably influenced me in my search for where I wanted to go. And I would watch her and her husband and how dedicated they were to holy days of obligation and to the different things that the Catholic Church teaches. And it impressed me. It really did. So, my mom, she's embraced it. She embraced it with my sister. Nothing there. My others, I have two siblings. Well, I actually have three. I have a half brother that I didn't know till I was like in my 40s.
Okay.
He's strong in his faith. I'm not just exactly sure. It's a non-denominational. I'm not exactly sure
Okay.
the beliefs and stuff. I don't see him as often as I should. I probably see him like once a year. So
Yeah.
distant there. My other sister, Terry, her husband's actually a Methodist minister.
Okay.
So they've been open to what we're doing. So as far as immediate family and family, no, there's not been any questioning there. The kids, I actually sent them a letter. Part of when I was growing up and the age that I am, men were taught not to show emotion, and not to show emotion.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to do was reach out to the kids because this was going to be a change for them, and I wanted to reach out. So I wrote them a letter, and my oldest of my two boys, basically, he talked to me about it, and he said, your letter was more like a form letter that you would send to your employees. And I was like, well, you need to understand that my dad didn't show any emotion, and I learned that way. So it's really difficult for me to share with you.
Uh-huh.
So it probably did come off that way. It probably came off very generic and that way, but I explained to him a lot of what I'm saying here today, why my wife and I, why Pam and I chose to go the direction we did, and those things and stuff. So they've been open to it. Haven't really had anything there. And most of my friends are excited, but I have one or two that are of the Baptist faith that are going to question what I done. I can tell you that.
Gotcha.
So,
well, we got plenty of resources and plenty of prayers for you. And they are, I know, it is wonderful to have friends like that too, who are in love with the Lord. You know, to hear you talk that so much of your family is trying to follow Christ, you know, that's a good thing in and of itself. Just to back up a little bit, do you know or are able to share what brought your sister to the faith before you? Any idea? Or
she was marrying a man who was Catholic, and I think at first it was she was joining because that's what her husband was going to be. But I think as she got involved in OCIA and stuff, I think that she saw some of the same things I did, and she's following that direction now. I think, like I said, at first it was probably due to a marriage, but I think it's evolved beyond that.
Okay. Wow. Well, I want to break in really quickly, and we are going to do our second trivia question of the hour. So 16 years and under, call in to 785-621-4110. Here we go. Who was the first pope? Was it St. Paul, St. John the Baptist, St. Peter, or Pope Francis? Who was the first pope? St. Paul, St. John the Baptist, St. Peter, Pope Francis. Let's get those phones ringing. 785-621-4110. And parents, if you're out there listening and you would like to donate and help to keep us in mission, keep us grounded, keep us going, we've got 5 different stations, one in the Lindsborg and Salina area. We've actually got 2 of them here in Hayes. One of them is our classic station. We've got Great Bend Station, Colby Station. You can drive across a lot of Kansas and listen to Catholic radio because of what God has done for us here. But he works through you. And so we want to thank you guys very much for that. It is a completely listener-funded station. We don't obviously have any government funds or anything coming in. We're not selling anything. And so it's only because of the generous donations given to us by all of you that we're able to be on air. call us at 785-621-4110 with those pledges. Let's get those matching funds rolling. Let's get those phones going, and let's try to get to that final destination of $125,000 by the end of the week. All right. We are on talking with Rusty Lindsay, and especially as we're on talking about Come Follow Me. And what a better topic than to be talking about following Christ into his church. And what a good question that is that we gave to the kids, who's the first pope. So we're not going to quite give it away, but we can say that he goes all the way back to Jesus. We'll just kind of leave it there. So let's break back into our talking about Rusty's conversion story here. And, we've talked about a little bit of the difficulties, things to overcome, how RCI or OCIA was. But now also, since joining the church, what are some of the most rewarding things you've seen? What are some of the fruits that have come out of it?
I would say actually getting back in not only communion with the church, but communion with other fellow Christians. I'd missed that. The other thing is actually going back in and learning the history. Praying the rosary. Like I said, I thought that was going to be something that was going to be a difficulty for me, but I actually look forward to it every day, praying the rosary and doing that piece of it and communion with God. Right now, I think I'm trying to figure out the direction God's pulling me from here. I've got the steps into the church now. I'm trying to figure out where that goes from here, and that's sort of where I'm at, and that's sort of what's exciting me right now, is trying to figure out what direction I'm going from here.
And that is awesome. So a little spiritual direction from, well, all right, you brought me here. Now what do we do while we're here?
Yep. That's sort of where I'm at.
As you were speaking, one of the things that hit me, and this has always been really apparent after my conversion, is kind of like what we were talking about earlier. When we leave town, we look up what mass we're going to. We're not skipping mass. We're going to mass. Lots of other people, when they leave town and they're not of the Catholic Christian community, they just don't go to church because they don't have a home to go to. They may go with their family members, but even sometimes that doesn't happen because they're like, well, we're part of the Christian church in Olathe. You're part of the Christian church in Hayes.
Right.
Your Christian church doesn't match up to my Christian church, whereas it doesn't matter if you have family or not. Your church family is everywhere you go. And so as you were speaking, that kind of really hit me too, is that you don't have to have confusion as to, well, where are we going to go? Once again, do we have to research everywhere and try and figure out what is this church teaching? Can we go there on Sunday? Hey, here's a Catholic church. Let's go.
Yep. We have friends in Oklahoma. We go down to Oklahoma and see, and there's a church in Sayre, Oklahoma, a Catholic church there that we've been going to. And we've been away on weekends, and some different churches in eastern Kansas too that we went to. And yeah, you're right. You don't have to think about it. You just know when you're going in there that it's going to be the mass. And I attended mass down in Garden City here a while back for a funeral. And there's no question, you're in home when you come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you've spoken some of already as to, like praying the rosary. That's something that you've picked up. I agree. We try to say it as a family daily. And I think it's absolutely done wonderful things in our lives. Are there other things that coming into the fullness of the church has really done to influence your daily life and things that you're doing differently now?
The rosary is a daily thing. And when I do the rosary, it was one of those comparisons back to the fire service. When we're going to a fire, there's a direction, and it gives you have directions to go to it, and sort of like GPS. And I find the rosary being that. I find it being giving me the direction. I get to it. It gives me direction for the day. As I pray it, um, I go through my thought, what I'm doing, where I'm going, that kind of thing as I'm praying it. Which then leads me to, I've been trying to go to at least one daily mass a week, and then um, mass on either Saturday night or Sunday, depending on what I've got going on as far as fire service or something else. Um, but I guess it gives me more insight to where I'm going through the day. I usually try to pray in the morning before I go to work. The other thing that we've been doing was real easy to get caught up on Sunday doing different things. Sunday, I've been trying to go in and basically learn about the church. I've actually been going in on form. That was where we actually done our OCI Simulon was through form. And so I've been trying to learn more about different saints, learning more about the history of the church, the starting of the church. There was a really good one that I watched just here this last Sunday that went through the rosary, and it was dealing with the mysteries.
Yeah.
And it was a very good series. So that's, as far as building my faith, that's some of the things that I'm doing. And like I said, right now I'm just trying to figure out what direction that's leading me now.
Okay. I like that. I think I'm going to remember this. You didn't completely say this, but I kind of got out of it that the rosary is our spiritual GPS.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I think of it.
Which is really awesome that I think you said that in a roundabout way, because I'm going to now see it as that, because it's so right. Is when I'm saying my rosary, there's a lot of things that are going on in my head, and am I always focused? No. But it is that thing that recenters you.
Correct.
No matter what you're going through your day, if you're like, hey, I need to say my rosary, that's the thing that's bringing you back to Christ in that moment. Even if you're not the most attentive, it's going 300 feet, turn around.
Yep.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I need to stop, get a little spiritual GPS here. So,
Yep.
Okay. One more time on our second question of our 5 o'clock hour. So remember, this is only 16 and under. I'm really surprised that we didn't get a winner yet. There's got to be some people out there listening that know this. There's got to be some young folks. I know you're out there. I know you're listening. Don't be afraid to call and take a guess. You can get this. Call 785-621-4110 for those 16 years of age and under. So the question is, who was the first pope? Was it St. Paul, St. John the Baptist, St. Peter, or is it Pope Francis? St. Paul, St. John the Baptist, St. Peter, or Pope Francis? Who was the first pope? Call into 785-621-4110. We also want to remind people that we are in our spring Care-a-thon. Come follow me. And we're asking you to also come follow us and be partners with us in our mission of putting the truth out there on the radio waves. You can do that first and foremost by praying for us and by praying for the mission of these stations. And second, and also very important, is we are completely listener funded. And so any dollars that you can give us help us to continue giving the programming that is wonderful. There's so much out there that is great. Listen to Catholic radio, call in, give us your pledge, 785-621-4110. All right. We're in talking with Rusty Lindsay and him following Jesus home to the Catholic Church. So I want to revisit just a couple of things maybe quickly. We stopped here talking about how has joining the church influenced your life, things that have been rewarding and stuff like that. Was there anything else that we've missed that since joining the church, you would say, I think this is important for people to know?
That's a good question. I don't know that I know quite how to answer that, because it's it's been overwhelming to me just trying to pull in some of the misconceptions that I had. One of them that I thought about earlier and I hadn't mentioned was, when I was growing up, having the crucifix at the front of the church, that was definitely different than what I was taught. And then bowing to it. It wasn't until I actually started going to OCI and actually attending Mass regularly that I was figuring out that it wasn't the crucifix on the wall. It's the actual presence of God Jesus in the church. And I think that's a big misconception for most of our Protestant friends. And that's one that has been really awakening to me, how much the church acknowledges the presence of Christ in the church.
Yeah.
And honors that presence. I don't know that you see that as much in the faith that I was in.
Yeah. So
I mean, they talk about being the house of God, but it's not the same as when you go into a Catholic church and the reverence and the actual acknowledgement that Christ is in the building.
Yeah, literally and truly.
Yeah.
Can I ask then, the Eucharist, did you have any stumbling blocks with the Eucharist?
That was one of them that I thought I was going to, but then after I looked at it, in the Christian faith or Protestant faith, whichever way you want to say it, we believe in the Holy Spirit. And we believe the Holy Spirit's going to enter into your body and give you, insight and direction. I don't see how that's so hard to understand that Christ would enter into, the bread and the wine, because that was what he told us he was going to do. So at first I thought that was going to be a little bit of something for me to have trouble with understanding, but really I don't. I mean, the presence of Christ, the form that it takes, it's in the faith that I was in previously, Christian faith, it was more of a remembrance and, symbols. But you really stop and think about it. It's not that hard to understand that, just like the Holy Spirit, Christ is entering into your body at that point, and you have full communion with him.
Yeah. That's awesome the way that you put it. And because I was the same way. I just had, it sounds like our walk there's a lot of similarities, because most of what I believed about Catholicism was just stupid things that I had bought into from our culture, misconceptions and things like that. When I had a couple of priests talk to me about the Eucharist, it was just like, it's that simple.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to say like I'm this great theologian or anything, but I'm just saying that like I had never seen John 6 before. And so when somebody opened my eyes to the scripture and was like, here, let's see what Jesus says about it. I agree that like, I thought that was going to be a huge problem. It's not. And in fact, you said it perfectly, like being able to be in full communion with Christ. Wow, how beautiful is that? So you mean you can, because you're the one that did it. You can bring me then into a more full relationship than I can have anywhere else. Yes, please.
Yes.
It's kind of like your marriage to your wife.
Right.
No, I don't want to just perpetually date you. I would like to be married, please.
Yep.
So that is awesome. We are in talking with Rusty Lindsay about, excuse me, you ever have those times when you start talking and you get something in your throat? So apologize for that. We're in talking with Rusty Lindsay about following Jesus home to the Catholic Church. And I wanted to congratulate Samuel Weber. Good job, Samuel. I knew somebody out there was listening. He was our trivia winner. The question was, who was the first pope? And he got it right, that it is St. Peter. So congratulations, Samuel, for that. You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Spring Care-a-thon, Come Follow Me. You are listening to one of our 5 stations, and we thank you for that. Or you might be listening on your Amazon Alexa, on your smartphone. on your computer. There's all kinds of ways that you can listen. Do whichever one you want, but thank you so very much for listening. Please help us to continue using up our matching funds. We had those matching funds that started out this morning of over $21,000. We've used up about $6,000 of those, but we want to keep using them. Those matching funds mean that if you call in with even $1 today, it becomes $2. $5 becomes 10. You guys get it. You can probably do math better than me. No matter what you give, you're going to get that match. You're going to get that donation matched. We also still have from the last hour a couple of the Holy Face pendants. So if anybody is watching online, I can actually hold it up and they can kind of see it if I can hold it at the right angle there. This is a gift that's being given away by Jennifer Lang to whoever calls in and gives any amount. Doesn't matter what it is, you'll get one of these pendants. Call 785-621-4110 or donate at dvmercy.com. We're going to get back here. We have about 10 minutes left. We want to finish up talking with Rusty Lindsay. I wish we had another hour to discuss this. But as you look back at your faith life, there's a lot of people that hesitate to even look into the church. Probably because of things like you and I had misconceptions, or maybe even it is the thought of what is my family going to say? You obviously had to go through that with not even know what your wife was going to say,
Right.
What advice would you have for anybody who is thinking about looking into the Catholic faith?
I would definitely go in and look at the values of the church, the history of the church, where the church started. And that's pretty simple. It's right in the Gospels where the church started from. So
Yeah.
you could go there, look at that part of it. I was sitting here thinking, and this may not be tied to, but it was just a thought that came to my mind. I'm one of those people that take what I'm doing very seriously, and I try to be a perfectionist, and probably to the point that I overdo things.
Gotcha.
But one of the things that I have really valued in my walk in the Catholic Church is with the traditions and everything, it seemed like there was a lot of things there that you could screw up, not do something at the right time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not been my finding. The church is very tolerant of you not knowing what you're doing and learning. And so go take a look and go in. And if you're not doing it absolutely right, or you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing, just pay attention. There's nobody there that's judging you on whether you're doing the right thing or not.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that I've really appreciated in my walk, is that they're giving me the chance to actually learn, and I feel at home there. So that would be my advice, is to actually go see what the church teaches, what's actually behind the traditions and stuff that the church follows, and where they're based. You're going to find a lot of all of it's based in Scripture, and that would be my recommendation on that.
Absolutely. I think maybe even as you were speaking, this brings me back to, I taught at TMP for 10 years, and a lot of times I'd have kids ask me, well, how do we know Christianity is the right faith, and one of the ways that some people have proposed this is, well, why not start with the faiths that make the most magnificent claims? Well, there's only one that makes the most magnificent claim of all, and that's the one that has a guy who says he's God.
Right.
If you can rule that one out, well, then you can go look at all the other ones. But if you find that one with the most magnificent claim to be true, well, you found it.
Yep.
I kind of take the same approach to Catholicism. What's the most magnificent claim that Catholicism makes? Well, that Jesus Christ is really, truly present in the Eucharist.
Correct.
Other Christian churches, they have great praise and worship services. Lots of them do. They praise God. They try to worship Him the best way that they know. But yeah, their Their communion is a memorial. It's a remembrance. The Eucharist is entering into the one and holy sacrifice of our Lord. And so to look at it and go, if you can look at that and go, wait a minute, that's a pretty magnificent claim.
Yeah.
And I find that scripture upholds that claim. Well, you might want to follow that then. So I didn't know if you had anything that you would want to add to that.
No, I think you said that probably way better than I just did.
That's all right. Okay. Well, I thank you so very much for your time today. Rusty, it's been great. As we know, our journey is never finished. We're always learning. We're always trying to understand our faith better. But I think that's also a beautiful part of it. Because if we knew it all, we'd be God,
Yep.
and we're not. So, pray for us. I'll be praying for you. And anybody listening, you guys have any questions, we can help you find where you need to go. So thank you so very much for your time, Rusty. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right. You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Spring Care-a-thon. Come follow me. And in just a few minutes here, we're going to get somebody in here to do the drawing. So be listening, because we will make sure to draw that. We're going to draw for the gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts. So let me get somebody in here, and we will find out who that winner is. But before we do that, I wanted to remind people of a few things. We started out this morning with a Care-a-thon goal of $125,000. If you go to our website, which is at dvmercy.com, you can go there and see exactly where we are by where the thermometer is at. And as I've been speaking today, you know that we also started with matching funds of $21,250. Those funds were given by anonymous donors within our listening area. The reason why they gave those is because they believe that this mission is so important to our world today, and it is. As we just got done listening to Rusty Lindsay and his testimony about coming into the church, I've given my testimony about coming into the church. It is because of things like this, because of Catholic radio, because of shows like Catholic Answers Live, and other shows that Catholic radio produces that we then are able to put out there, that people like us are able to hear the truth, to understand the faith, and to not be left with our ignorance like we used to be in. And so I can personally attest to the amazing ability of Catholic radio, what it has done in my own life and what it has done in the lives of people I know. And so I want to thank you guys for listening, for supporting this station, and for helping us to use up the matching funds. So please call in to 785-621-4110. It looks like our total for today was $4,430 thanks to those matching funds. So thank you guys so much. Keep those donations coming. Keep calling in. We will be here all week. We have amazing guests coming on. A couple of things before we get our drawing is just ways that you can listen. We are right now, you're listening in one way or another, but just to remind everybody, you can go to dvmercy.com, click on Listen Live. You can download the app on your smartphone. You can listen on your Amazon Alexa, or you can listen live, or you can watch live on Rumble, Facebook, or YouTube. And I now have people in the studio. Michael's waving at the camera. You people on the radio can't see it, but we can. So if you're watching, wave back to him. All right, here we go. Who's going to draw? Oh, Shirley Dinkle is in with us. She promises she's not looking. We'll watch and make sure. She's going to draw for the winner. Let's see who gets that gift certificate. Do we know how much the gift certificate is for? Oh, $50. That is fantastic. That'll go a good way to buying one of those amazing pictures or something they have. So let's have Shirley draw and see who the winner is.
Got one.
Do we need a drum roll? Oh, hey, Emily Reif is our winner. Congratulations, Emily. You've won that $50 gift certificate today to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts. I will give that to Nathan, and he will make sure that you get that gift certificate. Do they need to come pick it up?
They're
Or?
very faithful supporters of Divine Mercy Radio too. So thank you for that. And we'll go ahead and mail that. So
That's awesome. They'll get it mailed out to you. And remember, this is a daily thing, folks. You can get entered in. You can enter in multiple times a day. Call in, get yourself entered in, and you can be the next winner for that $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts here in Hayes. Jerome and Angela Schmeidler are the owners, and they are wonderful people. Do we have any closing notes that we need to tell people for the day?
just a quick thank you for everyone who was on the air today. Thank you, Cody, and the entire board for supporting this mission of Divine Mercy Radio. Could not do it without you guys. And all people listening too. Thank you for your support. We need prayers, we need donations, we need all sorts of help. So if you can do any of those things, we appreciate it immensely. It's all for His glory. So
that is awesome. What a great way to sign us off today. We'll be praying for all of you. Please pray for us, and we will be back tomorrow morning. God bless you and have a wonderful day.